Hello. Okay, let's do the motherfucking thing. Faked you out there. What's cracking, big dogs? Welcome, Bike, to the channel. Welcome, Bike, to the headquarters. My name is Nicholas. This is BDGE. Big Dogs Gotta Eat Fantasy Football. It's Friday. It's the weekend. And am I the only person that recovers from the previous weekend for like the entirety of the week? Getting fucking old, man. Getting fucking old. It's Friday, so we're doing sit starts. We're talking about my rankings. We're looking at guys that I have higher than expert consensus rankings. Looking at guys that I like more, guys that I like less, some must starts, some guys that I think you should have on your radar if they're deeper flexes, etc., etc. Y'all know the rules. Okay? If at any point you want my full rankings, all you got to do is go over to patreon.com/BDGE. It'll be listed like right there, I think, along with all the amenities of becoming a Patreon member. So it's week 3. We're starting to take shape of some of the teams, some of the roles, some of the depth charts. It's always tricky in the beginning. Sit starts are the earlier you are in the season, the trickier it is to understand the basis of fantasy football sit starts because we don't have a clear picture of defenses. Year over year, these things change drastically, right? Most offenses, we can get a good picture of how good they're going to be, how efficient they're going to be, because so much of what an offense is dictated by the quarterback, right? It's the reason they're the most valuable position in all of football, and it's not even close. It's the reason why they're paid the big bucks. When you have a quarterback, you pretty much know how well your offense is going to do relative to that quarterback. But for defenses, you can have an edge rusher, you can have some shutdown cornerbacks or whatever, but at the end of the day, it's a unit, and those things change drastically year over year, and certain things that are lucky, certain kind of fucking regression, right? We'll leave that to the analytical nerds, but we don't really know what a defense is until probably like 5 or 6 weeks into the season, which makes sit starts somewhat difficult. I'm not really sure what the point I'm getting at right now is, to be honest with you. So, week 3 must starts. Week 3, sit your ass on the benches, player, list, whatever it is time to tuck our shirts in. It's time to stop yelling. It's time to eat. All right, so the first dude I wanted to talk about in this video is someone that you're not going to not have him in your lineup, right? You drafted him early, back into the first round, somewhere in the second round, and that is Kenyan Drake of the Arizona Cardinals. I was about to say Detroit Lions. He plays against the Detroit Lions this week. Now, up until this point, you have not necessarily got the return that you wanted from up front, given the draft capital. But I've got some good news, and you guys are seeing this Friday, so if you can still go out and make a trade for Kenyan Drake on the low, on the cheap, I would do that now. His trade window is going to close after this weekend. Again, they go against the Detroit Lions. And this is what you've been waiting for if you did draft Drake. He's had 2 very tough matchups. Weeks 1 and 2 was against San Francisco. It was against the Washington Redskins. 2 very, 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 very tough front sevens that are difficult to run against. We finally get to see him do his thing against this Lions team who was absolutely fucking torched by Aaron Jones last week, right? Put some fluid on him, put a lighter, and then took a shit right on their chests. Jamal Williams had a good game too. Like all the running backs did their thing against the Detroit Lions. And then you look at the week prior, week 1, David Montgomery, Tariq Cohen, both combined to average over 5 yards a carry. So we're starting to get the picture that the Detroit Lions run defense without Snacks Harrison anymore is one that we can attack for sure. Where'd you go? I miss you so. Seems like it's been forever. They rank dead last in run defense per Football Outsiders and are close to it in Pro Football Focus's grading system. Okay, so right now, Drake ranks 5th in the NFL in carries amongst the running back position, okay? And he's only playing on 68% of the snaps. So the whole, Chase Edmonds thing, that's fine. You know why? Because they run so many damn plays. He ranks 3rd in total snaps. So he only plays on 68% of the snaps, but he ranks 3rd in total snaps among running backs because they run and run and run and hurry and fast pace. They've run the 2nd most plays in the NFL, only behind the Bengals because the Bengals ran like 92 plays last week when Burrow threw the ball 61 times, whatever. They have the 3rd fastest pace in terms of neutral game script in the NFL. So you have a guy who gets a lot of volume. You have a guy going against a really weak run defense, and you have a team that's going to run a shitload of plays. This is the week we've been waiting for Drake. Drake's breakout is coming week 3. Make sure he is in your lineup. Let's talk about Josh Kelley of the Los Angeles Chargers. And oh boy, the Chargers fell in love with Josh Kelley quicker than like I fall in love with a 5'3" curvy Spanish girl. It's a problem. 23 carries last week. The last time Melvin Gordon saw 23 or more carries in a Chargers uniform was week 7 of 2017. They already trust him as much, if not more, than Melvin Gordon to take that Melvin Gordon role. It just makes too much sense going against the Carolina Panthers this week. It's probably going to be the most chalky, like must-start running back of the week, which means he's probably not going to do shit, and he's probably going to put up like a 7-point performance in your lineup, but you didn't hear that from me. This Chargers offense runs a lot of run plays, okay? They are first in rush attempts through 2 weeks. 41.5 rush attempts per game. That's insane. Right now, Josh Kelley ranks 6th in the NFL in carries. 35 carries, right behind Kenyan Drake, who was 5th in the NFL in carries. He's also not a 0 in the passing game. Right now, he ranks top 15 in receiving yards among running backs. So that's kind of a surprise. I mean, he was, I compared him to like a Mike Davis type, ironically. Mike Davis obviously getting the start on the flip side of things for the Panthers. But in my prospect write-up, Kelley's a dude that can do it all, right? He's not been like a great running back in terms of like efficiency. If you make him do stuff on his own, he's not going to get it done. Like his juke rate, his yards created per carry are like barely in the top 40, top 50. But if they trust him and they're giving him the goal line work, they're giving him the 10 zone carries, and they're giving him a shitload of volume in both the ground game and a little bit in the receiving game, you're going to be good. You're going to be good with him as your RB2 or your flex play. Now, unfortunately for Eckler owners, he is monopolizing those end zone carries. So he has 3 goal line carries to Eckler's 0. He has 6 10 zone carries to Eckler's 1. And I also think for as good as like Justin Herbert looked last week, Anthony Lynn don't want him airing the ball out. He barely trusts him. He fucking went on record saying he wanted to put Tyrod Taylor into this game if he was at 100%. How can you watch that performance last week and then say Tyrod Taylor gives your team the best chance to win? Yes, I understand that they lost week 2. They were playing against the fucking Chiefs, okay? Shut your mouth. And it was the Bengals in week 1. So clearly Anthony Lynn, for as fucking jazzed up as he might be about what Justin Herbert did, like, I don't think he trusts him fully, if at all, to be honest. So I think this is going to be another game where they're going to give their running backs probably 40-plus touches. And the Panthers so far, the defensive side of the ball, have allowed 32.5 points per game, over 30 points to each of their first 2 opponents. And they probably not arguably, the worst run defenses in the entire league. They let up 3 touchdowns to Josh Jacobs in week 1. They let up 3 touchdowns to the combination of Leonard Fournette and Ronald Jones last week.
And he slips through, breaks free, Leonard Fournette. What a gut punch from...
I took Ronald Jones in the 6th round. I'm not worried about it. Everyone's gonna give me shit, but they don't know anything. They're not the sharps. I'm the sharp. So he's still a starting running back. Hell, I might take Leonard Fournette the next pick in the 7th. Who knows? Stay tuned.
I would be shocked if both Kelley and Eckler don't walk away from this game with at least 1 touchdown apiece. That is why the touchdown dance on Monkey Knife Fight is my favorite play of this week. Let's win some money. monkeyknifefight.com. Click new game once you sign up. And make sure when you do sign up, you use the promo code BDGE when you deposit. They're going to give you double whatever you throw down. If you put down 10, they're going to give you 20 to play with when you use the promo code BDGE. So once we're done with all of that, we're going to go to the football. A little football-y icon lets you know that we are doing things that involve a football game. Woo! So speaking on Josh Kelley, we're going to go down to the Panthers and the Chargers. One other thing I like to do is like the star shootout up here, so you can get a mix of all of the players playing in the early games or all the players playing in the late games. Your choice. They usually get better odds, or you get a little less juice when you're playing the individual games. So we'll go to Carolina. We'll go to the Chargers. We're gonna go to touchdown dance. I love touchdown dance. We have done pretty well so far this year. We're 2 of 3, I believe. And what we're gonna do? We're gonna pick Austin Kelley, Austin Eckler, Joshua Eckler, Austin Kelley, and Joshua Eckler, and then depending on whoever you want to throw in here. Who do you think will score a touchdown in this game? I think Mike Davis makes sense, but I don't really know how many goal line opportunities they're going to have. I don't know if he has the explosiveness at all to really make those Christian McCaffrey type plays. The smart play here would be to pair it up with Mike Davis, who's probably going to see like 60 to 70% of the opportunities in Carolina, but I almost feel like he's going to be like a Todd Gurley type player. Foreshadowing. Where he might go like 18 for 60. Catch a few balls, but I'm actually going to go out on a limb here. I'm going to go with my boy DJ Moore. So Austin Eckler, DJ Moore, Josh Kelley. Now what you need to do is you choose one of these 3. Goal 2.5, 3.5, 4.5. So combined between all three of them, you need them to score over 2.5 touchdowns, 3, 4, or 5. And depending, obviously, the higher the number, the more you will make in return, the more revenue we shall bring in. And we don't report that shit to the tax man. So we'll go something nice and light because I don't know how I'm feeling about DJ, even though I think Eckler can probably get in for like 2 himself and then Kelley 1 and then won't really have to worry about a damn thing. But we'll go over 2.5. So between these three, we need 3 total touchdowns and we will win 15 off thy bet. And again, if you use the promo code BDGE, when you throw $10 on, you're going to have 20 to play with. So you can turn the 20 into, what is it? Where'd it go? 20 into 30. So we're gonna turn 10 into 15. We're gonna submit that shit. And that's it. Let's get back to your regularly scheduled programming, sirs and sirettes. Let's talk about Todd Gurley. Every time I say let's talk about, I always want to end it with like, let's talk about sex, baby. And honestly, talking about Todd Gurley right now is almost as good as talking about sex because I hate Todd Gurley. I hated him all offseason. And last week was the reason why I hated him. 21 carries for like 62 yards or some shit. Like, that is the Gurley that we have now. That is who Todd Gurley is. Right now, I have him ranked as RB26, okay? So not even in the RB2 conversation, which is probably a little bit ignorant given the volume that he might get. But ECR has him as RB16 against the Bears, coming off of what we saw last week. That's just irresponsible, right? You want to say volume is king, but you got to at least run like a fucking prince if we're going to talk about volume is king, not like a peasant, okay? Shout out to Go Fade Me. The Falcons running back, Todd Gurley, has the usage of RB11. So the 11th most touches among running backs this year. He has turned that into RB36 fantasy production. He's been in on just 55% of the snaps through 2 weeks. The game script last week, the Falcons got up real early. We're not going to fucking mention what happened at the end of the game.
Dallas needs this without timeouts. Zerline, little squibber. It's got to go 10 yards, and it's close. Zerline may have come through. Who's got it? The Cowboys have it. Do you believe that?
You don't have to wait for it to go 10 yards. You can attack it right there. Somebody could have came in and got it. You're just watching it go. Olamide Zaccheaus could have just covered the ball up.
Greg Zerline from 46 to win it for Dallas. Hold is down, kick is up, and it is good! Somehow, some way, the Cowboys have won it.
And they got up real early, and it was the perfect game script for Todd Gurley to if you're up against a team by 20, 24 points, and you can't put up more than 7 fantasy points, I feel like that might say something about you, okay? Gurley's game last week was pitiful. He got work stolen from him in the passing game by Ito Smith, some ground game by Brian Hill. He got some of the 10-zone carries and goal line carries taken away from him. He has not forced a single missed tackle, not one single missed tackle through 2 weeks and 37 touches, okay? And obviously the Bears defense is no pushover. So I absolutely hate Gurley in this game. Tough defense, coming off a terrible performance because he's not a good running back anymore, and you're seeing them start to divvy up the touches and the snaps a little bit more, and I think that's a trend that we're going to continue to see more and more as the season progresses. Now, the same thing happened with Zack Moss out in Buffalo, and most of you guys are like, of course I'm not fucking starting Zack Moss, but right now, he has an ECR of running back 28. So that is a legitimate flex option. Like, most people are debating whether or not to throw him into their flex. I have him all the way down at running back 38, and that's pretty much out of the category of where you would flex a player. He also popped up on the injury report with some kind of toe injury on Wednesday, so I'm not sure what exactly his status is. I filmed this on Thursday afternoon. It's like 12:45 right now, Thursday afternoon. So by the time you guys watch this, we might have some new injury updates. Some guys might have missed practice. Some guys might be bike at practice. I don't know. But Zack Moss is getting out-snapped, out-carried, out-targeted, and out-efficiency metriced by Devin Singletary in every category there is. There's just no way you can have Moss in your lineup until we see some kind of, efficiency boost or volume boost that tells you that he's going to get more playtime going forward, and that's just not what we've seen. We've seen a split backfield, which is what we wanted, but the Bills have gone so pass-heavy that it hasn't equated to fantasy points for either of the running backs because we also have Josh Allen acting as the goal line carry. Moss has out-carried Singletary on the goal line 3-0, but he has not converted a single one of them. He's not playing well enough to command more time. He's averaging 2.8 yards per carry. which is second to last in the NFL among running backs. And the only one who ranks worse than him is actually Saquon Barkley. RIP. And this is while the Bills have had like premier game scripts for fantasy running backs in each of the first 2 weeks, and they've gotten nothing from it. So until I see, like, Singletary is barely a flex play for me, but Moss is definitely out of starting lineups. I don't care if you're in a 12-team league. I mean, maybe you want to flirt with a borderline 14-team league, but for real, he has looked like shit. This team has looked amazing through the air, and not looking forward to seeing Zack Moss try to smash against the Philadelphia front seven, which has always been really stout against running backs. Let's move over to wide receivers, okay? Let's move over to wide receivers. If y'all are enjoying the video so far, please hit the thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. We'll be doing shit like this every single day, 5 days a week, 17 days a week. I don't know. If you're on the podcast, a rating and review would be fantastico. Fantastico. Wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy, going against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So there's no Courtland Sutton playing in this game. Jerry Jeudy so far has a 21.4% target share. It's really high for a fucking rookie. It's really good for any like secondary receiver, but let alone a rookie. That is a beautiful, beautiful number. He's a top 15 wide receiver in the NFL right now in air yards. And Jeff Driskel is taking over for Drew Lock. Honestly, that might be a good thing. Jeff Driskel loves to sling it and sling it to his wide receivers. After last week, I mean, he came in out of reserve, threw up over 250 yards against a Pittsburgh pass defense, man. That is a ferocious pass rush. He did it under pressure, which he will be seeing pressure against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And he ranks right now number 1 in air yards per pass attempt. Again, he is not afraid to sling it. And who is he throwing to? I was doing some research yesterday. In his 3 starts for Detroit in 2019, Jeff Driskel targeted wide receivers on 75% of his throws. The NFL average is 59%. Tight ends on 18% of his throws, running backs on just 7%. Last week in Pitt, he goes in. He targeted his wide receivers on 71% of his throws, tight ends on 18%, running backs on 9%. Yes, I realize they don't add up. It doesn't take into calculation throwaways and some other shit like that. So don't worry about it hitting 100%. Just understand that Jeff Driskel loves throwing to his wide receivers. We're seeing a trend. And Jerry Jeudy, I believe, will operate as the number 1 wide receiver in this Denver offense now that Courtland Sutton is gone. I do like KJ Hamler. You want to talk about a deep flex play. KJ Hamler came in, rookie, really, really explosive, fast, DeSean Jackson type player, a 2nd-round pick out of Penn State. The guy is explosive as fuck. Saw 7 targets his first game in here. So I believe this will pretty much be a condensed target share between Jeudy, Noah Fant, and KJ Hamler. So obviously Noah Fant's a tight end 1. Jeudy, I think, is a very, very viable flex play this week. And KJ Hamler is more of a desperate play, but he makes a fun spot start or a fun tournament play in DFS if y'all play that, which I do not, because that shit's gambling, all right? Gambling's not good. You know who isn't also good? Carson Wentz kind of sucks right now. But with Jalen Reagor on the IR, you want to talk about KJ Hamler being a DeSean Jackson type, why don't we just get the real thing? DeSean Jackson's going against the Cincinnati Bengals. Now, I know he's been disappointing, but Jalen Reagor is now on the IR, and DeSean Jackson is pretty much the only outside threat that this Philly offense has. And you're looking at a Cincinnati defense that has allowed the 7th most yards per attempt to opposing quarterbacks and almost 26 points per game overall to opposing teams. The problem with Philly thus far has been their offensive line, has been protecting Carson Wentz, and has been allowing plays to develop so that he can, stand in the pocket and deliver it downfield accurately. Both Geno Atkins and Mike Daniels, their interior linemen, missed Week 2's game, and that's the reason why on Monkey Knife Fight we smashed Nick Chubb, the over 15 fantasy points or whatever it was, and we killed it. They didn't practice yet this week. I haven't seen Thursday practice reports, but I know they didn't practice on Wednesday. So after 2 weeks of rest, you're still not practicing. Not good news for the Cincinnati defensive line, which means there will be a lack of pressure in the backfield for Carson Wentz. He's basically been playing like they've been in his pockets, in the pocket, in each of the 2 games that the Philadelphia Eagles have played. And he's been under pressure way too much, and it's affecting all of his throws, right? I'm not going to get into the fucking whole thread with Doug Peterson yesterday. Kind of an interesting thread, honestly. NFL Next Gen Stats Twitter account just absolutely shat on Doug Peterson. Basically, was at a press conference, and someone, Jimmy Kemsky or whatever, like the main beat reporter for Philly, asked about Carson Wentz's like missing all these like short dump off throws. And he was basically like, look, it's the NFL. There's no such thing as an easy throw in the NFL. And NFL Next Gen Stats literally just like quote tweeted it and went through like 10 tweets looking at advanced numbers and be like, all of Carson Wentz's throws should have been complete. All these really easy throws should have been an 87% completion percentage. And he's down at like 67. They just took a shit all over Carson Wentz in the Philadelphia offense. And I'm here to tell you that this is a bounce back game. It's a get right game. I don't know if it's a get right game for the rest of the season, but they could do something right here. So With DeSean Jackson, I mean, as terrible as a start as this has been, the opportunity has been there, all right? It hasn't been different than the other years, just the quarterback play has. He ranks 17th in overall targets, which isn't like crazy, but top 20 is still pretty good. Second in the NFL in deep targets. Fourth in air yards. Sixth in average target distance. Second in unrealized air yards. So he's getting the air yards, but they're either inaccurate, he's not catching them, they're out of bounds, whatever. He's still getting the opportunities there. And with Rager gone, the other deep threat, DeSean Jackson should be clicking up with Wentz this week. I know we feel like we're playing whack-a-mole, we're rolling the dice, like trying to hope that we hit DeSean Jackson on the head here. He's in a really good matchup too. According to PFF, they do their wide receiver versus cornerback matchup sheet each week, and according to them, he has the third best advantage amongst all wide receivers given the gradings of the opposing cornerbacks. You have Tyler Lockett, you have Calvin Ridley, and then you have DeSean Jackson at number 3. So I like the chance of D-Jax getting right this week against Cincinnati. I also like Corey Davis at Minnesota, man. I have him up at wide receiver 31 or 32 with an ECR of wide receiver 40. And again, if you guys want my full rankings, half PPR, standard, full PPR, if you need help with your sit starts, patreon.com/BDGE. That's where you'll get all of them. Now, Corey Davis has had 2 strong outings to start the year. Big one in week 1, and then he dropped off a little bit last week, but still found the end zone. So he's gone over double-digit half PPR fantasy points in both games thus far. And now they have a beautiful matchup against the Minnesota Vikings, who have allowed the second most fantasy points to wide receivers through 2 weeks. Their team is absolutely fucking abysmal. They're terrible on defense. They play with no urgency on offense. It is a problem. It is a problem, and so is A.J. Brown's knee, okay? He's got this bone bruise, which kept him out in week 2. If he's playing, honestly, I don't even know if it's that big of a downgrade for Corey Davis because I believe that this bone bruise is bad news. This is something that can linger for a long time, unfortunately, for A.J. Brown owners. And as of yesterday, Wednesday, AJB was not practicing still. And in an interview, he said, I've got to take it slow. That's what he said. In those words, when you say, I've got to take it slow, you already sat the first week and you're missing practice in this week, I've got to take it slow, lets me know that it's very unlikely that he does suit up. We'll have to obviously keep an eye on reports, but it sounds to me way more likely that he's not going to play than that he is going to play. And if he does, I think he's going to be more like what we saw in week 1, where he clearly wasn't right. He was used as much more of a decoy, and we saw what Corey Davis did in week 1. Now, Davis will line up, projected by PFF, across someone named Jeff Gladney for Minnesota. Some fucking Viking cornerback, some scrub. Gladney's coverage grade this year ranks 93rd of 108 qualified cornerbacks, okay? So Davis, in my eyes, is a really solid wide receiver 3 flex play. I don't think, I actually had Humphreys in this list last week, and he ended up going like 5 for 50 and a touchdown. But either way, like with AJB, without AJB, Humphreys is more of like a 50 to 55% snap guy, and you're kind of banking on a touchdown, which is what he gave you last week, and I'm probably not trying to hit lightning in a bottle twice there. So I like Corey Davis. Obviously, Jonas Smith becomes a target monster as well. So Corey Davis, wide receiver, 32, above consensus. Darius Slayton, man, versus the San Francisco 49ers. Hard not to like Slayton this week for a whole lot of reasons. A whole lot of gang shit over here with Darius Slayton and the New York Giants. This, I think, is the lock of the fucking century. San Francisco is -4 on the road in MetLife. This is the get-right game for New York, okay? You want to bet on a game this week? It's the New York Giants +4. Snacks didn't send me. This is all on my own. He picked the Giants last week. Terrible fucking pick. You can't pick your own teams, okay? So automatic rule number 1, L, all that shit. Don't do it. I do it. I do it for you, Snacks. I'm doing you a service here. You're doing yourself a disservice. +4, New York Giants. Put the revenue on it. Put the mortgage on it. Lock of the millennium. San Francisco, very banged up on defense, right? They're going to be without Bosa. They're going to be without Solomon Thomas. They're going to be without Richard Sherman, who Slayton likely would have seen a lot of. And while DJ has basically been joined at the hip when he's backpedaling in the pocket by these opposing defenders and these opposing lines, he's played against Pittsburgh and Chicago, 2 very good pass rush teams. And the pressure rate from San Fran, without all these defenders now hurt, it's going to be a welcome sight for Daniel Jones. Now, on New York's side of the ball, we obviously have Saquon Barkley out. We have Sterling Shepard out. That opens up about 10 targets a game on the offensive side of the ball. A lot of those are going to go to Darius Slayton, Golden Tate, Evan Ingram. And not only does Barkley being out open up targets, but what I think it does is kind of like lessen the workload that we're going to see from these running backs. Like, I highly doubt we're going to see anything near Barkley touch count workload between Devonta Freeman, Dion Lewis, and Wayne Gallman. So I think this automatically kind of pushes them towards a more pass-heavy offense to begin with. You have Golden Tate, man. He missed week 1 with the hamstring injury, and then he still doesn't seem like himself. Like last week, he seemed like he was far less than 100%. He like kept kind of like nursing the hamstring, and he's a tough dude that usually plays for that shit, but you could tell he was clearly less than 100%. So I don't know. This target competition has quickly dwindled to Darius Slayton and Evan Ingram, in my humble ass opinion. Now, San Fran played in MetLife last week, and we've heard nothing but them fucking complaining about the turf there, or whatever the fucking field is. They played against the Jets last week, and they were on the road, obviously. I don't know if they stayed in New Jersey, which would be a great fucking choice by them. Beautiful state. If they stayed in New Jersey, or they flew back and then flew back again to play in MetLife, either way, I mean, they're either away from their facilities and their homes and their families for 2 weeks at a time, or they had to travel cross-country 2 weeks in a row, which is shitty. That's another reason why I really like the spread in this one for the Giants. I don't like when teams have to travel cross-country. It's one thing being on the road, but it's one thing being on the fucking road. You know what I'm saying? Like, that is not good for San Fran. We also have to, like, Nick Mullins is their quarterback, right? I know he's not shitty, and Jimmy G is not anything special, really. But, like, this doesn't make much sense for me to see San Fran. I think straight up New York probably beats them.
Oh, stop. Oh, I can't breathe.
So I think you could start Slayton with pretty hefty confidence in this one. Along with a few of these quarterbacks that I'm going to mention. I'm actually only going to mention one, but I'll mention one start, one sit. Matt Stafford at Arizona. He is my quarterback 11, and right now he's quarterback 15 or 16 in ECR. Biggest news here is, of course, he gets Kenny Golladay back, his elite outside possession receiver, right? Missed Kenny G the first 2 weeks, and it shows. While the Cardinals' D has been good, they've played against weak offenses, weak quarterbacks in the first 2 weeks, like Jimmy G and I believe it was Haskins last week. They've looked very good for sure. They're a much improved defensive unit, but Detroit's pass blocking line, I think, can handle it. They are number 9 graded per PFF right now, so they're more than well equipped up front. And as I've talked about many times, this Arizona Cardinals team has a crazy high pace, number 2 in total plays on the year, which is why the over-under in this game is 55.5. 55.5 points over-under per Vegas. Only Dallas and Seattle have a higher over-under, and it's a half a point more at 56. So the second highest over-under of the week is because they're going to run so many damn plays. Stafford's also had 7 drops so far this year, which is the second highest number among NFL quarterbacks. So I'm feeling a strong game coming from Staffy. He's got his weapons lined up. He's playing against a team that will score a lot of points and will run a lot of plays. So I think that will carry over to the Detroit offensive side of the ball as well. And I think this is a bounce-back game for Matthew Stafford. Deshaun Watson could use a bounce-back game, but this ain't going to be it. Traveling from Houston up to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers. That's a brutal matchup. Just being on the road, being at Pittsburgh, they are just a very, 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 very good defense. And who does he have in terms of weapons? He's got David Johnson. So fucking good, right? David Johnson got nothing going against Baltimore. Pittsburgh's run defense is arguably way better than Baltimore's. I mean, they're both very good, but Pittsburgh's is like elite in every sense of the word. I don't see much help from the ground game. He's got Will Fuller, who's nursing the hamstring injury. I'm not really sure what his status is, but at best, he's going to play and be less than 100%. Now, we'll get into the numbers of why this is going to be such a tough matchup for Watson. He has been sacked on 25% of his dropbacks so far this year, and he's been pressured on over 37% of them, which is the 5th highest rate in the league. His completion percentage while under pressure is 33%, 5th worst in the league. And that's probably what happens when you trade away a guy who is your outlet when you're under pressure, right? When Deshaun Watson's scrambling out and he's sensing pressure and he knows he needs to feed it into a tight window, you think he wants to give it a little Will Fuller or a little Brandon Cooks? No. Like, that's where DeAndre Hopkins comes into play. That's why he catches so many 7-8-yard passes, because Watson gets under pressure, scrambles out, and then hits Hopkins because he's got strong hands, contested catch rates through the fucking roof, and now they don't have him. So it makes sense as why the completion percentage would dip under pressure for a guy like Deshaun Watson this year. Tweet from Andy Holloway. Deshaun Watson has a 61.8 passer rating against the blitz since week 16, 3rd worst of qualified quarterbacks. The Steelers have blitzed on 29% of their plays since week 16, 2nd highest in the NFL. Joe Dolan at FG_Dolan. According to Next Gen Stats, Pittsburgh's defense has the highest pressure rate, 45.6%, and blitz rate, 57.8%, in the NFL. Deshaun Watson has been awful, both under pressure and against the blitz. As most quarterbacks are, when you run play action, you tend to open things up, and you tend to become a more efficient quarterback, and your numbers get raised up a lot, right? That's the case with Watson. Unfortunately, their new play caller, Tim Kelley, they are running play action at the 7th lowest rate in the NFL. He's going to be under pressure a lot, man. That's what happens when you have some of the highest graded pass rushers in the NFL between Cameron Hayward and TJ Watt. And they got this other dude, this interior defensive lineman, what's his name? Tyson Aluala. He's been in the league for a long time, but he had a breakout last year, and it seems like he's getting even better. So he looks legit on the interior line for them, cementing himself as a real-life force up the middle. So a lot of pass rush, a lot of pressure. Not good for Deshaun Watson. So what you're hoping for Deshaun Watson is, like, he's my quarterback 13, I think, right now, maybe 14 even. What you're hoping for is that like all of this pressure leads to him scrambling a lot. Like what you're going to need for him to have a good game, a usable game, in my opinion, is going to be like 50 to 60 rushing yards and scrambling for a touchdown, which of course is very, very possible for Watson, but I don't really want to bank on that. I feel like it's going to be a lot of sacks, a lot of hits taken, maybe a couple forced fumbles. Like it's going to be ugly for the Houston Texans in Pittsburgh, in my opinion. All this shit is in my opinion, but they are big facts. I can guarantee you that. That is my week 3 sit start rankings, yada, whatever the fuck you want to call this video. Just me yelling a lot. If you want the full rankings, patreon.com/BDGE. Hit that monkey knife fight touchdown dance, people. monkeyknifefight.com. Use the promo code BDGE, and they are going to double whatever you deposit. If you throw down $10, they're going to give you 20 to play with. You can turn that 20 into 60 because we're hitting the fucking touchdown dance, baby. And make sure you hit the thumbs up. We're hitting everything, all right? Let the bodies hit the fucking floor. Let me hit the end record button on here. I love y'all. See you on Saturday.